the writing paper. The writing paper. Now, this is the one, apart from reading, that most exam people who are learning to train for the IELTS exam, they often report that this is the one they most worry about, the writing paper, right? And it is somewhat technical. Okay. So I think what we'll do is begin with the tips, the advice that they give in the masterclass, and then we'll look at a couple of teaching strategies. We can also save some of the uh, writing activity for our final class. But first of all, you need to have the masterclass open, the masterclass handout. Right? Particularly, which is particularly important, pages, I think it's 25 and 26. Those are going to be important today. 25 and 26 of the masterclass handout. Let's welcome our newcomers. Welcome Paula, welcome Andrea, welcome Anna. And thank you for arriving on time. Did you get my message that I might be a bit late? Fortunately, the traffic in Mexico City wasn't too bad, so I was able to get an EcoBici and ride like the wind to get here. So, let me show you what you need to be looking at on the masterclass handout. You need to look at these tables, right? 25 and 26. Have these open in front of you. Huh? Page 25, you've got task 1, and this applies for both the general training and the academic. And task 2 applies for both general training and academic. Next time we'll look at speaking. Okay. So I have those ready, and we will begin with the masterclass first of all. Welcome, dearly. Welcome, Leticia. Glad you could make it. Ah. Ah. Now, you probably know, for writing and for both formats, there are 2 tasks. 60 minutes, 2 tasks. General training, 60-minute, 2 tasks. But the tasks are slightly different, aren't they, for each one? So, for academic, it's summarizing information contained in a graph, table, bar, or pie chart, diagram. And task 2 is an essay writing giving your opinion of the academic. General training, do you know what it is? Is there also an essay in general training?
Yes, in general training, you have the essay.
Yes. Is it the first task or the second task?
The second one.
It is, yes. Do you know what the first task is in general training?
The letter. There is a
Yeah,
letter
so
about something.
it's a letter, yes. Write a letter. Yeah. All right, and we'll look at some of the finer differences between the task twos between general training and academic. There are a few differences. How you scored. So have a look at the band descriptors. I'll share them with you again. In the masterclass handout, there we go. Page 25, 26, have them to hand. So first up, it's task achievement or task response. So in this, we're going to be identifying the writing skills you need to achieve a band 7 or higher. And we're also going to highlight some of the common mistakes which could prevent students from achieving the band score they need. So the written tasks are assessed on 4 criteria. That each column of the handout relates to one of the 4 assessment criteria. Each row, so the columns, 4 assessment criteria. First is task achievement, then it's coherence and cohesion, then it's lexical resource, then it's grammatical range and accuracy. Okay, so those are the 4 columns. The rows that describes a band score and the way that the candidate at that band score performs against each criteria. Each criterion is equally important and worth 25% of the mark for each task. So let's focus on task 1 academic. The key questions here are: what skills do you have to demonstrate to get a band 6 or above? And what are the common mistakes that students can avoid? So for academic task 1, information may be presented in a number of different visual formats. The task is essentially an information transfer task. In other words, information they are given in a visual form, the candidates have to convert them into text. Imagine that they have to report on what they can see to someone they are talking to on the phone who can't see the visual. They have to identify the key information, the key features, and give a summary to that person. They should only spend 20 minutes on this task, as it only counts for 1/3 of the total mark. They'll lose marks if they write less than 150 words. Now, if they're doing the computer-delivered writing test, a word counter will show the word count for each task. So that's easy. So what sort of diagrams, graphs or diagrams could they get? Why could you please put your suggestions into chat? What diagrams do you know for task 1?
Bar chart.
Right, okay, let's write your ideas in chat. Some of you. Yeah. That's right. Bar chart is one of them, definitely. Yes, there could be maps. Pie chart is one, yes. A diagram, yeah. What sort of diagram? Could be a diagram of a process. Right. A line graph, yes, that's also possible. No, with the lines going up and down. Okay. So yeah, pie chart, line graph, could be a table. Diagram of a process or a diagram of how something works. Now, we're going to take a close look at a typical academic task one. Now, this one is asking you to compare two related graphs, a bar chart and a line graph, describing the number of Japanese tourists traveling in a 10-year period. Now, fortunately, you don't have to take screenshots because it's in the handout. I'll have a look in the handout. This is your backup here. Where it is? Where is it? There it is. It's on page 4. The handout. There you go. So, Jose, could you read the instructions for us, please, for this?
Yes. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The charts below show the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad between 1985 and 1995, and Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words.
All right. So, thank you. Very clearly read. So I have that open in front of you. Look at the task. What should they write? What should your students write?
They have to start just making a short description about what they can see.
Yes, yes, it's a description, isn't it? Yeah. Should they make comparisons?
But not at the beginning. That is not the structure. That is not the way that you structure. No? First you describe it, and then you just compare them, but just when you think that is relevant.
Right. Can they give their opinion? I mean, they can, but is it advisable? Jose is saying, shaking his head and saying no. No, it's not. No, it's not asked for. It's not required in the task, right? So they should avoid interpretations, right? It's a description of the visual information and the and any text, right? It's not an interpretation. So here's some questions. What should they do first? How should they begin their answer? What are the key features? How do I support the key features with data? and what is an overview? So we're going to try and answer those questions. But does anyone have any ideas about these questions, the answers to these? What should they do first? Any suggestions? Any people familiar with this task? I can see in the chat someone's written, look at the common trends, says Andrea. Well, I guess what you mean there is analyze, right? Analyze the task carefully before you start and try to look for sort of correlations between the data. How should I begin my answer? Should you begin with the evaluation or overview?
Yes, Andrew, I think that as you can see, there's like a writing prompt. So I think it is important like to have that information in mind to start writing the first part of the answer.
All right. What are key features? It's a bit like Palabras clave, isn't it? Yeah. So it's probably data, isn't it? The information in the graph, in our graph here of the Japanese tourists in Australia. How do I support key features with data? And finally, what is an overview? Any idea what an overview is? You should be able to guess what an overview is. Israel says key main ideas regarding key features. Right, yeah. In a way, yes, you're right. And Brenda says identify what type of writing or activity you need to develop. The key features. Is that how you support the key features with data? Good guess, not quite though. An overview is like a beginning with S. It's like a summary, isn't it? An overview. Okay, so here are some answers to these questions. So the content, you must summarize present the information. Summarize the information in your own words, highlighting the key features and supporting these with figures or information given. They should also make comparisons where appropriate and provide an overview. Your answer should be in the correct format, that is, a continuous piece of writing. You should not explain or give an opinion on the information. So what should they do first? Analyze, read the headings. For graphs, look at the X and Y axes to understand what they mean. Diagrams, note the process or sequence of events. Try and form an overview in your mind of the information that is provided. How should I begin my answer? Write an intro describing the info. You can use individual words from the question, but don't copy long phrases or whole sentences, as these will be deducted from the total word count of your answer. On to organization.
Sorry, Andrew, you mentioned something important, like in the previous step. Like some of the words will be like what, like taken away from the number of words of my final task
Yeah,
if I
that's
use
right.
them a lot or something like that.
Yeah.
So I cannot copy. That's what some of my students do. Like they copy and paste just the part of the instruction there at the beginning of the
Yes. No,
introduction,
no, they
and they
should.
say like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's they will, in a way, the same. They will be just ignored if you copy, right? If you copy words uh, from the task, they will just be ignored by they're just blanked out, basically.
thank you.
So organization. They need to present the information in a clear logical manner using linking words and paragraphs appropriately. How many paragraphs? No rule in task 1 answer, but each paragraph should introduce a main idea. Typically, they should write an introductory paragraph, 2 or 3 others, and then conclude with an overview. Key features then are most noticeable, significant facts contained in the graph. They should select at least 3 key features which form the basis of the answer. They shouldn't try and mention everything. How do I support the key features? They can't include all the data, so they need to select the most interesting related to the key features to illustrate their summary. Overview is usually 1 or 2 sentences summarizing the general trends given in the graph, chart, or diagram. It can come at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the summary. It often forms a useful conclusion. Yeah, clear so far?
Should I avoid giving my own opinion? Like try to avoid using adjectives at the end of the overview, because like probably I will try to do it. Like I find this like interesting or shocking or something like that. But shall I avoid this kind of adjectives in the
Yes,
overview?
it's not needed really. Yeah. Yeah, so I would avoid adjectives. Yeah, what they do need perhaps is like language to talk about changes. Mhm. Right. So there's some rules of writing for task 1, academic. So how do they approach the task? They have to set the scene, provide a context. So write an introduction. What, when, where. What should they include in the introduction? Oh, sorry. We'll come to that in a minute. They need to highlight key features with figures. They need to write an overview. Right, so those are the main things they need to think about. The 3 rules. Okay, we'll go over them in one by one. So what should they include in intro? They need to, for this particular task, they need to include 3 things: the what, the where, and the when. So the introduction in this slide covers the what, so number of Japanese, holidays overseas, when, 1985 to 1995, where, in Australia. So it includes the rubric while at the same time adapting the grammar to suit the new sentence structure. There's no need to explain what is in the X and the Y axis to the examiner. So, first rule, write an intro. What's the second? I think we already said that it was to do with features, right? The key features. Yeah, so highlight. Always highlight the key features with figures, as in the sample answer. Deanna, could you read this paragraph for us, please? And maybe you could stress the figures that you think are the key features.
Okay, in 1985, only about 5 million Japanese travel abroad, after which the number increased steadily. By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year, the upward trend continued until the end of the period, when numbers reached over 15 million.
Thank you. Beautifully read. So the data may be written in percentages or a range of units of measurement, like Japanese people. It is important to present the data correctly. So it should be millions, not thousands. There we go. Continuing on the next slide. You'll notice that there's percentages there. And then there's language to describe increases, grew consistently, or decreases, a slight fall, and declined marginally. So they'll lose marks for inaccuracy, so they should make sure to write the figures and the ranges correctly. Now, here's a question for you. What's the highest score for task achievement if you don't include figures to highlight the key features? Now, for this, you need to look at page 25 of the handout. Have a look at page 25. Do you need me to send it, anyone? The handout? Shall I send it again anyway? There we go. When you've found it, the answer, put it in the chat. Adriana says band 5. Oh, she's right. Now, IELTS considers that being able to use data to provide support for the key features is a key writing skill. Test takers need to show that they are able to back up their facts with evidence. We know from the band descriptors that examiners assess their ability in writing to highlight key features with figures. Just how well they can do this is rated under the column that is called task achievement. So have a look in task achievement. Look for the word data. Use your scanning skills to try and find the word data in the first column. Will they get band 7 if they don't include data? when they report the key features? Deanna's shaking her head. That's right. No. Band 7 says clearly presents and highlights key features. What about band 6? No. Because we can see it says presents and highlights key features. So a band 6 will actually include those key features. So we have to move further down to band 5. So recounts data mechanically with no clear overview. There may be no data to support the description. Ah. So most of us were correct. Yes, it's band 5. So to recap, rule 1 is start with an intro. Rule 2 is highlight the key features with data. What's rule 3? Write an overview, yes. So an overview is a summary of the most important message, written in usually just one sentence. It may be in the introduction or in the conclusion, as in this example. It doesn't really matter where in the task it appears, but it must be there. Use the analogy of writing a report with an executive summary for your busy boss, right? If you need to explain the concept of a summarizing statement, right? So here's an example of an overview. Julian, would you mind reading it, please?
Yes. So overall, despite the relatively small proportions of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, the increase in the country's share of the Japanese tourist market corresponds closely with the growth in Japanese tourism overseas, generally with a tripling of both in 10-year period.
Okay. So in a way, I've contradicted myself by saying you shouldn't put adjectives in there. But the adjectives are very much related to the data, right? In the visual information, aren't they? Yeah. So we've got the word small and relatively adverb there, relatively small. And yes, but it's still more of a description than an evaluation or a interpretation. What happens if you don't include an overview in your answer? Now, have a look at the band descriptors. See if you can find it, the answer to this. Will you get a band 7 if you don't include an overview in your answer? The answer is yes or no. Will you get a band 7 if you don't include an overview? No, because it says you present a clear overview. What about band 6? There's an overview there, isn't there? In band 6. So what if you don't include an overview? Keep going down. Band 5. Yes, most of us are correct. It's band 5. Recounts detail mechanically with no clear overview. Ah. So let's do a quick checklist for task 1. The examiner can see how many words they have written, so they should make sure it's at least 150. Have they made effective comparisons? The task instruction says make comparisons where relevant. This might apply to a diagram where you're describing stages in a process. If you look on the masterclass handout, there is a manufacturing process, and it's relevant to make comparisons. Just have a quick look at that one. So in this brick manufacturing process, there could be comparisons between the processes where bricks are placed at higher temperatures or left for longer periods of time. They need to also include the right text type or format for their answer. The academic task 1 must be written as a factual report, not a letter or a lecture. The answer must be written in connected text or linked prose. So with linking words. They'll lose marks if they write in note form or if they use bullet points or numbered lists. So they should write in paragraphs. They should check mistakes in grammar or spelling. And they should be consistent in the use of verb tenses. Now, in the computer delivered IELTS, the word count appears at the bottom of the screen, and the examiner can read how many words they've written. Now, Moving on to common mistakes. So task instruction is to report the main features, not to interpret information or speculate on changes. So don't try to interpret the data. They're not asked to explain why, for example, there was a small decline in the number of tourists and why Australia's share of tourists in the early 1990s was that. So just be factual. They shouldn't try and describe everything. And they've only got 150 words. If they write more than 200, they've probably not been selective enough, and they've included too much detail. They should aim to identify trends or patterns rather than describing every change. Oh, and examiners will also be assessing how well they use sequencing words to make clear the order of the stages in a process, like the first stage, the following stage, after that, next, and the final stage. Their ability to use these sequencing words is assessed or rated under coherence and cohesion in the band descriptors. So use the words that show the sequence of the process if it's a diagram. On to general training. It's a bit less technical, I think. So, the general training task 1 consists of writing a letter. They have to write at least 150 words, but they don't need to write more than 200, as the task is designed to be completed in around 150 words. After all, they only have 20 minutes to write the letter. It's not very much, is it? And it only counts for 1/3 of their score in the writing. Test takers are given a situation that they have to respond to. For example, by giving their opinion on something and suggesting a course of action. Or they may be dissatisfied with something and want to write a letter of complaint about the situation. We'll see an example of that later. Or you may be asked to write a letter to a friend, inviting them to stay with you and suggesting when they should come. As you can see in this example, after the situation is outlined, they are given clear instructions in the form of 3 bullet points as to what they should say in their letter. So they should analyze the task first to ensure they fully understood what they have to do to cover all parts of the task. Common mistake is not to cover all 3 bullet points. Test takers should try to give an equal amount of detail for each point. Make sure the purpose of the letter is as clear as they can. Make it as clear as they can. In this example, the test taker is asked to describe more than one problem. The question tells them how to start the letter, so make sure they follow the task instructions. They may have to write a formal letter, a semi-formal letter, or a personal letter. So it's important to use the right style or tone when they write. Now, you will see from the task achievement scale in the band descriptors that they will lose marks if the tone of the letter is not appropriate or consistent. So, how do they approach the task? So, as with any task, they have to set the scene, provide a context, make it clear what the purpose and context of the letter is, then cover all bullet points and maintain an appropriate tone. So the first masterclass rule is state the purpose and then begin addressing the points in the task. What should they include in the beginning? Oops. Skipped ahead there. Essentially, for this particular task, they should include the purpose of the letter. So the first masterclass rule is state the purpose and begin addressing the points in the task. Notice that the writer has described two problems. Oops. Can I ask someone? Letty, are you there, Miss Letty?
Yes, I'm here.
What are the two problems that the writer has identified here?
One is the delay in the bus services
Uh-huh.
and the timetable,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
frequency
Yeah.
in the Saturday mornings.
Yeah. Notice there's a kind of a cause and effect in each one, isn't there? Roadworks, delays. New weekend timetable, reduced frequency of buses. Good. Aye. Here you can see the writer has covered all the bullet points in the task fully and clearly. So here they're making a suggestion or recommendation in the complaint, aren't they? Now, question to you guys, what is the highest score for task achievement if you don't include all the bullet points in the letter? You'll find the answer in the first column, task achievement. So look for the words bullet points. Israel is saying 4. So does Deanna. Let's check. So you think it's 4. Notice it's you've got to look at the GT ones. GT. Yes. Attempts to address the task but does not cover all key features or bullet points. We don't want that, do we? There we go. Okay, good. Now, maintaining an appropriate tone. So the tone is going to depend on who they are writing to. So they've got to try and maintain that idea in their mind. Who are they writing to? The skill of maintaining an appropriate tone is also assessed in the task achievement scale. So what is the highest score for task achievement if they don't maintain an appropriate tone? You can put your answers in the chat again. 6 says Julian. Is he right?
And probably that's what I got that scored in the last sites that I took that I presented. Because I tried to be like sarcastic in that part. Probably that was why I scored about like 6.5. I think that I got there.
Laura says 8. Brenda says 5. Laura says 6. Oh, there's quite a lot of variability here. Yeah. 6, she's changing it now. Okay, you may be surprised to find that the answer is 5. So the tone may be variable and sometimes inappropriate. Yes. So what's the masterclass advice? Yeah. Analyze the task to fully understand it. Look for more than one element in any bullet point. So check for plural forms in the bullet points. Describe the problems. Yeah. Don't just assume there's one. State the purpose in the first paragraph. Letters need paragraphs, don't they? And politely round off, looking to the future, often asking for some follow-up action. I look forward to hearing from you, that sort of thing. So masterclass advice continued. Write in a style that's suitable, formal or informal. And they need to write the letter in the same style. Now, what happens if they don't? Well, I've just said that choosing the right tone for writing the letter to someone is very important skill. So I'm going to read out a letter to you. Do you think the writer of the letter uses the right style? So just listen to this while I read it. So, dear sir or madam, hi, how are you today? Sorry to bother you with this letter. I read in your newspaper this week about the nasty plans to build ugly new apartments near my home. All my family are very angry about this because we don't want to lose the valuable amenity which this park is. My kids like to mess around there all weekend. There's heaps of stuff they can do in the park. Anyway, would you like to look out over ugly tall buildings which lower the tone of the neighborhood? Yeah, oops. Need to do that. In conclusion, thank you for your time reading this letter. I like reading your newspaper very much too. Exclamation. Please don't hesitate to contact me for further information, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, so which band do you think that writer would get? For task achievement? 7, 6, 5? Seven, right? No. 5, yes, 5 is the right answer. So this is an example of task achievement band 5. Tone may be variable and sometimes inappropriate. So the letter contains contrast between formal and informal style and an inappropriate formulaic closing sentence statements. Kindest regards does not match the formal opening of Dear Sir and Madam. Now, another tip is that if it says begin your letter as follows, dear, they must insert a name, like Dear Mr. Oliver, or for a personal letter, Dear Andy. It's not usually appropriate to use the recipient's occupation, like Dear Teacher, if writing to their teacher. So it'd be more appropriate to say Dear Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith, as if it's the name of the teacher. In any case, they shouldn't leave the opening as dear. Sounds like a minor point to me, but there you go. Now, let's just switch back to the other tips.
Sorry, Andrew.
Question.
How should I address to a company? Like you have to write a letter to a company. So shall I start with dear two? Dear company manager? No, it's not okay. Or can I
Well,
start that way?
the rubric will say who you should write to, probably. Like it could be the personnel manager or the finance officer, right? So it will give you some. It will give them some clues who it should be, whether it's a sir or madam or yeah. So they just need to make sure they read the rubric carefully. And they shouldn't include the address at the start of the letter. It's a waste of time. And they should end the letter in an appropriate way. Yeah. So it's worth showing students how to start and finish with these conventional phrases and expressions, yeah? Now, let's move on. Sorry, there's still quite a bit to go. So let's continue with essay types. This is pretty important for part 2. Task 2 for both academic and general training. We're going to take them together, right? But in the process, I will point out some of the differences between general training essays and academic essays. So there are four main essay types that may be confronted with, right? There can be opinion, discussion, multi-part questions, and multi-part plus opinion, just to confuse matters even further there. So depending on the task, they may need to provide general factual information. They may need to outline and or present a solution. They may need to justify an opinion. And they may need to evaluate evidence and ideas. Okay. Now, it might be teaching this, you may have to review the genre process approach to writing, which involves a genre discovery stage or genre analysis, in which you identify the layout, organization, formality, the language, and the text type. After that, you start the process of writing, analyzing, brainstorming, and then planning what's going to go into each part of the essay. Usually there's an introduction, body paragraphs. Each body paragraph has a topic sentence and a conclusion. And then first draft editing and final draft. This is when you're teaching your lessons, preparing them for the writing test. Now, the opinion essay, let's have a look at this. So, the opinion essay, the task 2 essay counts for 2/3 of their writing mark. They should spend 40 minutes doing it. But they shouldn't start writing as soon as they see the task. First, they have to analyze the task to decide on the right approach to take, because different tasks require different approaches. So, can I have a volunteer to read this rubric, please?
I can, teacher.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, write about the following topic. Some people believe the increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity is a positive trend. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? The time for this activity is 40 minutes, and you have to write at least 250 words, and you have to include in the essay, give reasons for your answer, and include any relevant example from your own knowledge and experience.
Now, the rubric could also say here, do you agree or disagree? Now, how many parts do they have to address in order to reach band 7 of the task response? So now we're looking at, I think it's page 26. So how many parts do they have to address to get a band 7? Let's have a look at and it says here, band 7 here addresses all parts of the task. Okay, so this is page We're on the next page now. This is page 26. Yeah. Now, so the question is, how many parts are there in the task? And it can be difficult to identify, can't it? Is there just one part? Are there two parts or three parts here? What do you think?
Well, I think that there are at least 5 parts, including maybe introduction, giving your opinion. That will be 2. Giving reasons or answering to the main question, 3. Including examples, 4. And low knowledge or experience with a conclusion, that will be 5 parts.
A good guess, but wrong. There is, in fact, only one part. This essay requires only their position, but it must be well developed with plenty of supporting ideas. It does not require the opposing viewpoint to be discussed, though a balanced essay would also be acceptable, they say, as long as the writer's position is clearly and consistently expressed throughout. Okay, so this is an example of just a one-part question. Okay, now it'll become clearer when we contrast it with essays with different parts. Now, look at this one. Paolo, could you read this one for us, please? I know it's difficult on an iPad, but you could try. Can you read it in voz alta, or someone read it in voz alta?
I can. Some people believe the increasing popularity of shopping is a leisure activity as a positive trend. Others believe it is harmful to individuals. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience.
Great. Now, how many parts are there to this task? Is it 2? Juan Diego says 3. Is he right? Brenda says 2. Now, you may be surprised that there are actually 3, as Juan Diego says, because you give the view of shopping as positive, the view of shopping as negative, and then your own opinion.
So, teacher, in these examples of exercises, always when we have a discussion, we need to separate both views in different points, or we must
That's
work.
right, and it would be logical in a essay like this to have a present the positive view, the negative view, and then the opinion.
Okay,
Right?
so
As separate paragraphs.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, this is more typical of a general training topic. The topics in general training tend to be less academic in nature and more practical and everyday. So having 2 questions to answer at least is typical of a general training task too. Let's have a look at another one. Multi-part question essay. How about Lady Sedior? Could you read this out for us, Lady Sedior? Are you there, Lady Sediel?
I can read it if you want to.
Go ahead, please.
Shopping is becoming more and more popular as a leisure activity. However, some people feel that this has both positive and negative effects. Why is shopping so popular? What effects does its increase in popularity have on individuals and society?
Mm. So this is also a general training topic, being less academic, more practical and everyday. How many parts are there to this task? Adriana says 3. Is she right?
2.
So the answer is Jose says 5. Okay, so I can understand why you might say 2, but to fully understand address the task, the response needs to first present an opinion on the popularity of shopping, and then discuss how this popularity has an effect on individuals and society. So, opinion on popularity, how it has an effect on individuals and society. So there's 3 there. Now, what's the highest score they can get if they only write about why shopping is so popular, or if they only write about the effects shopping has on society? Have a look at the page 26 handout, task response. Look at the band descriptors. Is it 7, 6, or 5? So what's the highest score if they only write about why shopping is so popular, or if they only write about the effects shopping has on society? Adriana says 5. Diana says 5. Do you think they're right? Diana, why did you say 5?
Because the band descriptor says that it addresses the task only partially.
100% right, yes. Correct. So only addressing part of the task will limit the test taker to band 5, whether they do academic or general training writing. Now, it's about this one. Multi-part plus opinion. I don't think we need to read it out again. It's kind of similar, but how many parts are there to this question? Put your answer in the chat. So, Andreas says 4. You may be surprised that there's 2. I don't know why they call it multi-part then. If there's only 2, it should be like dual part essay, right? But here there are 2. Although I guess there could be more than 2. So according to the answers, they're describing any problems that are associated with the increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity, and an opinion about whether the problems outweigh the benefits. There is an implication that both problems and benefits should be discussed. So, to address all parts of the task and get a band 7, candidates must cover both parts and must focus on shopping as a leisure activity. So a different approach is needed from the previous task. Now, here's a bit of a cheat sheet you might find useful when you're preparing students for part 2, whether they're doing general training or academic. So I'll screenshot this for you and send it to the chat, so you can read it again at your leisure. Bit tricky, isn't it? Eh? It's Manioso, I think. There you go. So, just some summarizing. What are the main characteristics of an essay? Well, structure. We need intro, body paragraphs, conclusion. The opening paragraph introduces the topic and provides background information and presents the thesis statement. Thesis statement is a way of defining the scope of the essay, what you're going to include, what you're not going to include. Body paragraphs. Each paragraph explores a single idea that supports the thesis. These paragraphs include evidence, examples, and analysis. In conclusion, concluding paragraph summarizes the main points and restates the thesis. In the light of evidence discussed, may also offer a final thought or call to action. Coherence and cohesion. Ideas should flow logically from one to the next, with clear transitions between paragraphs. Cohesion ensures that all parts of the essay contribute to the overall argument or narrative. So, things to bear in mind. Task 2 is worth twice as much as task 1. They should decide on their position, express their view clearly, and provide support using examples and evidence. Have paragraphs, each with a clear focus or topic sentence, which summarizes the paragraph. Use a range of vocab and grammatical structures, and analyze the task and write the relevant content. No. Linking words to connect their ideas. Shouldn't write in note form or headings. So it has to be paragraphs, right? This applies to both task 1 and task 2. But in task 2, what's the highest score the examiner can give you on coherence and cohesion if they haven't organized their points or ideas into paragraphs? Let's have a look. Is it 7, 6, or 5? They haven't used paragraphs. Let's see. Band 4, says Brenda. Close but no cigar. No, it's not band 4. Slightly higher. 5, says Diana. That's correct. Yeah. So may not use paragraphs, or paragraphing may be inadequate. Well, that's the issue there. So it is important to train your students to use paragraphs. And of course, they should be trained to proofread and evaluate their own work. So know their usual mistakes, check the work carefully, and look out for the typical mistakes. Ah. Any doubts at this point? I just want to run through a possible lesson that you could do to teach students for the general training task 1, which is the letter, right? So just very quickly, I'll just run through this and I'll try and make it participative, right? So that you can actually do some of the activities yourself. So where is it? Yeah, here we are. So it's good to start with a model. Using this genre or process approach that they mentioned, right, in the masterclass. Right? I want you to look at this letter and answer these questions for comprehension. Is it okay? What does the writer want the reader to do? Type your answer in the chat. I'll give you like 1 to 2 minutes to read it quickly for gist or general understanding. And answer this question: what does the writer want the reader to do? So the writer is Andrew Watson. The reader is dear sir or madam, presumably the person at the university who's in charge of accommodation. And why? Why does he want him or her to do that? Change rooms. Yeah, says Adriana. Change of rooms, says Jose. Quite right. And the why is because there are noisy students, right? They're partying too hard when they should be working. Right. Now, after you've got the students to check, read the model for understanding. You can get the students to label parts of a text to make them aware of layout and content. There are quite a lot of parts to this text, and not all of them are so relevant for the actual writing in the exam. So you could possibly simplify it, but I've just included them so that we can sort of point out that not all of them you need to produce, like, for example, the address. Now, if you're teaching online, you could find that opening an account with FigJam or one of these interactive whiteboard programs is useful. So if you click on that link, you'll find a interactive whiteboard. And so if you're from Mexico or Peru or Colombia, go to your whiteboard, go to your slide, and you should be able to move those sticky notes. You may have to click with the pointer and then move them like that, yeah? Okay. Good job. Okay, so it's kind of easy and fun to do that, isn't it? So quick answer check. You'll notice that some of these stages are more important for the successful achievement of the communication than others. I would highlight with 2 stars the request for action, the reason for writing, description of the situation. Whereas other things are somewhat optional, aren't they? Right. Maybe the date or as we mentioned, the address. So awareness of the text type and its stages, what we call the generic stages, is important when you're teaching writing. Then we could work on tone. sometimes known as register or appropriacy. So to do that, what better than a Google form if you're teaching online? There we go. Please click on that link and make your choices. Sorry, we're moving through this rather rapidly, but time is against us. Just to demonstrate the types of activities that you can do as teachers, right? I mean, you could adapt this to face-to-face class. Doesn't have to be online. So which of these 3-letter openings is formal? Which of the 3 reasons for writing is formal? So just the one of them there. There's an odd one out in number 3. It's more informal than the others. And which is more informal in style than the others. And notice that the keyword is letter endings here, as opposed to email endings. Submit your answers when you're ready. We'll check. Got 9 responses. Good job. Yeah, so people say, yeah, dear sir or madam is more formal. Yeah, and most of us say the orange one, I'm writing to complain, because notice there's no contraction there. Yeah, more. Contraction is more associated with speech, isn't it? Yeah. Although it is used in writing, but obviously more informal writing, like texting and emails. Yes, the blue one is more informal. It's too direct. Yeah. Normally, when we want to be indirect or polite, we use more complicated grammar. Could you please provide me with? Yes, I would be most grateful if you could please give me. Yes, regards. That's more appropriate for an informal or neutral email, right? So this sort of type of thing is going to be useful for general training, task 1, because they need to use the appropriate tone in particular, right? Okay, and what could you use for your writing? Now, we don't have time to do writing because we still need to do our Kahoot. But here is a typical way you could do this online, but it could easily be adapted to a face-to-face lesson as well, using Google Docs is fine. Okay, so each you give each student a page with their name on it. You have a clear rubric. Don't just say write a letter of complaint to your students. Yeah. They need practice in actually analyzing the rubric, right? Read it carefully. so that they're aware who the writer is, who the receiver is. Huh? What sort of outcome should they ask for? $150 words. Yeah. Now, once they're done, they can use a checklist like this to read each other's and check for content. Perhaps you as teacher could give feedback on the language used. Maybe some corrections. Okay, so we've gone through the appropriacy, we've gone through setting the task with a clear rubric and a template. You can even sort of indicate how many paragraphs they should write. That's quite a good practice, right? So make them write it in paragraphs, ensuring that each paragraph has a clear topic. So here are the typical stages in such a lesson framework. Usually a lead-in, comprehension check. We have analysis of layout and the content. There's awareness of register, style and appropriacy. I mean, you could do some work, some language work as well, perhaps on some of these, don't know, modal verbs, I would like, and so on. You could then get them to write according to the task rubric. The template is optional. There's a peer evaluation. Often, it's a good idea to encourage the students to review each other's work, give a little bit of feedback. It helps to build this awareness of the importance of proofreading as well, making sure they've included all the ideas and that they are conscious of, errors in the writing. So then they may have to rewrite and then display. Maybe you could put their writing on the wall. They could walk around the room and read each other's attempts. Okay. Is that okay? Now, should we finish with a quiz? To test your knowledge of the writing test. Please join. Thank you, Adriana. Let's begin. Oops. There we go. Which, or part of the test, asks candidates to describe some visual info. Yes, good job. It's task 1 of academic. Recommended time of 20 minutes. Yeah, quick draw is yes, it's task 1, correct. Which is given more weight than the other in marking. It should do both, but one carries more marks. Yes, it's task 2. Well done, Diana. Well done, Juan. Recommended time of 40 minutes. Yes, 12. Task 2, yes, is indeed correct. Oops, sorry, pressed the wrong button. Yeah. Let me just stop that for a second. Here we are. Which task must be at least 250? Yeah, correct. Task 2. 150 words. Yeah, task 1. Yes, the answer is general training task 1. 8 of us got that right. Which has a discursive essay format. Yeah, correct. Task 2. Well done, Julian. Back in the game. Which is not an assessment criteria for writing. Yeah, it's handwriting. Yeah, not. Another assessment criteria is? Yeah, it's task achievement. Another assessment criteria for task 2 is? Yeah, it's task response. So task 1, task achievement. Task 2, task response. True or false? Plenty of time to write 2 tasks of good academic English. What do you think? Yes, the answer is no. It's false, isn't it? 60 minutes is not plenty of time. So students need to be practicing under exam conditions, don't they? Otherwise, if they just do it without a bit of practice, they're going to freak out, aren't they? Yeah. Oh my God. So that's what we've got to be mindful of. So who's won? Laura's in 3rd place. Jose is 2nd. The silver medal and the gold medalist is Juan. Well done. Nice one, Juan. And these amusing characters there. The runners-up. Now, just remind you, our next session is on June the 19th, I think it is. So please be. I think you've got to do the work on speaking, haven't you, for the next, before the next time. And that's what our next session will be about, speaking. So we're pretty much done for tonight, guys. Unless you have any further questions. Hope you found it useful. Maybe we could do some more on writing in the final session, because people tend to find it quite hard. There's kind of a lot of terminology, isn't there? Kind of technical. Don't you think? Lot to take in, isn't there? Task achievement is hard, yes. Well, if there's no further questions, queries, or doubts, I think we can finish there. I'll let you go and have your merienda. You can go and eat your arepas or tacos, whatever.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Buenas noches.
Thank you.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.